Have you ever stopped to wonder what exactly happens the very second after you flush a toilet or drain your sink? In the past, that dirty water was simply pumped miles away to a distant city facility. But relying on that old model puts a massive strain on aging city infrastructure and risks leaking untreated pollution directly into our local groundwater. Today, modern high-rise buildings and gated communities have a much smarter solution built right in. If you look beneath the basement parking level, you'll find a massive, multi-chambered industrial facility called the Sewage Treatment Plant. It's a living recycling factory. Water flows down from the apartments, gets completely cleaned, and is pumped right back up to the surface. By treating waste on site, a residential building stops dumping its sewage into the environment and begins producing its own supply of usable water. Turning raw sewage back into clean water is a carefully orchestrated four-stage biological assembly line. We start in stage 1, physical separation. Incoming water passes through rigid vertical bars, catching large debris. Heavy sand sinks to the bottom. Next, the liquid moves to stage 2, biological breakdown. Here in aeration tanks, the water is aggressively bubbled and agitated. Those bubbles have a purpose. Giant blowers pump massive amounts of oxygen into the water, keeping billions of helpful microscopic bacteria alive and breathing. These bacteria are the factory's hungry workforce. They literally eat and break down the organic pollutants floating in the sewage, clearing the water naturally. Depending on how much basement space a building has, the layout of this biological engine will usually follow one of two designs. On the left is the settling tank method, relying on gravity in a wide room for bacteria to slowly sink. On the right, a compact direct filter method saves space by squeezing water through a microscopic mesh that instantly catches the bacteria. Regardless of the design, the core engine of the factory is always the same: nature's own bacteria, hyper-accelerated to handle an entire community's waste. Once the hungry bacteria have done the messy work, the water moves into the final polishing phase. This is stage 3, tertiary treatment. The nearly clean water is forced down through tall columns packed with fine sand and carbon. These dense layers act as the ultimate trap, catching the last microscopic particles and stripping away odors. Finally, the water gets a quick dose of a chemical, like chlorine, or a blast of UV light to zap any surviving germs. But wait, what happens to all that heavy solid waste from stage 1, or the extra overpopulated bacteria from stage 2? That brings us to the fourth and final stage: sludge treatment. That leftover organic mush is mechanically squeezed and pressed to remove every drop of excess water, turning it into dry, soil-like bricks. These dry cakes are neatly packed and safely trucked out of the building to be disposed of, or even used as nutrient-rich fertilizer for farms. It's important to know that despite all this brilliant machinery, this underground factory is not a set-and-forget robot. It requires dedicated human operators working every single day. They meticulously check chemical levels, wash out clogged filters, and ensure perfect oxygen supply so the bacteria don't suffocate. The plant is a delicate, living ecosystem, and it relies entirely on skilled human hands to keep that microscopic workforce thriving. Look at the result of this four-stage journey. What started as hazardous household waste has been transformed into crystal-clear, odorless water. And instead of dumping this valuable resource into a local river, the factory pumps it right back up into the apartment building's dedicated plumbing. You see this recycled water out in the open every day. It's what keeps the expansive community lawns green and the driveways washed clean. You interact with it invisibly indoors, too. It provides the endless, reliable supply of water that fills every toilet bowl in the complex. By continuously recycling thousands of gallons like this, the community cuts its reliance on scarce city water supplies, which lowers utility bills for every resident. This recycling loop allows the society to operate independently, keeping thousands of gallons of waste out of the local ecosystem every single day. So, next time you see the community sprinklers turn on, take a moment to mentally thank the invisible trillion-worker factory humming quietly beneath your feet.